Hi everyone, I am Adam Wronkowski, an assistant professor at Mickiewicz University in Poznan, Poland, and I am pleased to present the results of my research, which is about how spaces of human activity in the city are chosen, using my research in Poznan as an example. I will first illuminate a bit of theoretical background of my research, then I will move on the goal I was trying to achieve and the research questions, and then I will move on to discuss the research methods and used and the results of my research. Urban squares are identified in the literature as social spaces of great importance in the city structure. It is a very diverse from a public spaces with multiple functions. In the literature, urban squares are often characterized as nodal points where various social events, activities, and situations intertwine. Urban squares are also spaces that are often targets of action. For this reason, they seem very interesting and cognitively valuable. We know a lot about how people use the city. We know a lot about where human activities in the city are distributed, different kinds of paths of passage from point A to point B, and the ranges of movement by different modes of transport are studied. Big data, social media data, etc., are often used for this purpose. This is precious information, but is insufficient attention seems to be paid to answering the question why. Why do we use these places, and what is the process of selecting a space of activity? What issues are taken into account? What determines that we choose specific activity spaces? What are some choices, or why are some choices more evident than they might seem? Research conducted per the humanistic perspective in human geography answers questions about the motives and justifications for human activity. It makes it possible to explore such questions by putting the human being at the center of research interests. The human being, along with his needs, requirements, capabilities, perceptions, previous experience, etc., the research I am conducting takes into account just such a perspective. The study's main aim was to identify and evaluate the impact of the factors of choosing the activity space by city users. I tried to answer 4 research questions to get closer to the started goal. This concerned the identification of determinants of the choice of activity space, the degree of the impact on the choice of activity space, variation according to metric parameters, and an attempt to find justification for non-obvious activity space choices. The study used 2 research methods. First, 10 in-depth interviews were conducted with Poznan residents who use city squares daily. The interviews were structured, which means that the number of questions, order, and content were the same for all respondents. Due to the restrictions related to the COVID-19 pandemic, it was decided to conduct the interviews online. The data obtained in the form of audio files were transcribed and qualitatively analyzed using CAGDA software, specifically in NVivo. It made me able to identify the factors that are considered when selecting an activity space. The identified factors were then quantitatively assessed in the survey conducted using the CAVI technique. 384 people participate in the survey, of whom 320 declared that they use city squares. The sample of respondents were stratified to mimic as closely as possible the population of Poznan in terms of gender and age. A quantitative analysis was then conducted while looking for correlation using T-students analysis. Finally, 11 factors were identified, divided into three main categories. Environmental factors included weather conditions and time of the day. Psychological factors are related to evaluating a given space as aesthetics, safety, character, and the need to discover new places in the city. And spatial factors associated with the quality of transport connection to a given space and its location in city structure. Also included in this category were factors related to the presence and quality of urban features, the presence of services in near the space, in and near the space, and the ease of getting around the space. As I mentioned, the identified factors were assessed during a survey of Poznan residents. The survey results indicate that the weather conditions play the most significant role in the choice of activity space. The feeling of safety was also highly rated. These results may not come as a surprise. Both weather and safety are treated as a boundary conditions, often conditioning further consideration of other factors. However, the relatively high rating assigned to aesthetics is surprising. Also, the convenience of urban features and the connections to the space can be distinguished in terms of the ratings assigned by respondents. Several factors with relatively medium influence on the choice of activity space are the location of the square in the city structure and character of the space, ease of movement, and the services present in and around the space. Of relatively low importance is the time of the day of activity, which received a score 3.52. Willingness to discover new activity spaces was rated by far the lowest. This indicates a preference for using proven, familiar spaces over undiscovered, uncertain ones. An analysis of average value of the ratings assigned to each factor influencing the choice of activity space show a gender gap. As in the case of the relevance of the needs realized in the area of urban squares, in this case, women also rated the importance of the factors slightly higher. On average, the difference was 0.24 points. Average woman 3.91 points and men 3.67 points. Women pay far more attention to the time of the day, square location of city plan, the character of square, aesthetics, good transportation connection with the city square, sense of security, and ability to use the city square comfortably. The factor of weather condition was rated almost identically for women and for men. Factors in the choice of activity space can be ignored, or a person's sentiment can reduce their influence toward a place. It overcomes the factors above or causes a person to attach less importance to them when negative values characterize them. The sentiment filter can also aggregate the positive qualities of a place. A person may decide to arrive at the selected square even though it is, for example, unfavorably located. The time to reach it is longer than preferred. The space is uncomfortable to use. There are spatial barriers, or it lacks attractive services and social situation. Appearing in square despite this limitation broadly relates to a person's strong memories of the space. Sentiment can influence decision in the city square regarding all needs and activities. This factor can cause a person to choose a far less obvious space to carry out specific actions. It may be a more difficult place to get to or offers fewer opportunities than others. However, despite the various functional spatial attraction, it will be more attractive due to its characterization by multiple emotions and memories. Sentiment, as an essential factor that can be influence the choice of activity space. Thus, relates directly to a person's previous experiences and the emotional charge attribute to the space and the visit. In summary, several aspects that affect the choice of human activity space in urban environments were identified. The results also identified the sentiment filter as a factor that can contribute to unexpected and less obvious choices. This raises questions about the validity of including sentiment in urban analysis and research, and is an essential point of research into the motivations for using specific urban spaces. It is worth considering adding the sentiment factor to theoretical considerations in light of at least two concepts. First, walkability, an idea that prioritizes creating walkable environments without using a car. The results suggest that human spatial behavior occurs not only based on the spatial layer, but also refers to issues of safety, aesthetics, and opportunities offered by space. On the other hand, the ability of barriers to easily navigate the space could have been rated higher about different responses. Secondly, the concept of 15-minute city is based on the diversity of functions and their skillful placement in the city. The survey results indicate that in some cases, even the best designed city, according to the principles of this concept, may not work due to the sentiment of the place, of the space, which determines that more than 15 minutes to reach the space may be viable to chosen by users. This is an excellent point to discuss the emergence of a new concept according to which we will shape our cities in the future. It may be the sentimental city. Thank you for your attention.